So talking with WildSound's resident zombie and horror expert, Mark Engberg, we're talking Walking Dead. We're in the middle of season 3. They just had their little teaser, eighth episode, and we're here to talk Walking Dead. How's it going, Mark?
Good, Matthew. How are you doing today?
Good. So what's your feelings on them splitting these TV shows now, like they did with Breaking Bad, I guess, they're doing with The Walking Dead? Is it like kind of like a new staple in television?
I don't know if it's new, because I remember that The Sopranos did it, and that Sex and the City did it for their final seasons. And the best reason I can think of why they're doing this is to really draw it out, especially since those were the final seasons. Now, I don't expect that the third season of The Walking Dead is anywhere near to a close, but it definitely, I think it suggested to the producers that there's a way that they can really stretch these seasons out and give them the cinematic girth that they feel that they deserve.
Or supersize them and make you feel a little bit nauseous because there should be 13 episodes, but it's really 16 episodes.
Right.
You can also use that argument, but at the same time, it's a good telebroadcasting move, because they could obviously the ratings are huge for Walking Dead, especially the little mid-season finale, little blips in the radar in terms of ratings. So I'm sure there's a financial end to it too, as well, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure that there's also some intelligence behind. Look, we know that the holidays are coming up. People aren't going to be going to their houses from college or wherever and sitting down with their family and watch The Walking Dead or Breaking Bad on TV with their grandmothers and nephews.
I thought this was a family show. No?
You know what? I'd like to officially rescind my earlier statement where I said that The Walking Dead is a show that you could watch with your children. I remember making that declaration after the second season.
Yeah, exactly.
The second season, compared to the first season, was a much slower, down-tempo pacing that pretty much revolved entirely on an idyllic farm. And it was kind of like Little House on the Prairie with zombies. I was reading a review on it that it said it was like a parody of the Samuel Beckett play.
Okay. So what's the third season then?
Third season is nothing but momentum, and if you saw the first episode of the season 3, it was the first 5 minutes were almost kind of like a manifesto. It was because a big criticism with the second season was that it was way too much talking and way too much time in one area. Well, if you notice the first 5 minutes of the season 3, nobody even says a word. And the way that they're rushing through the house, they're basically just they've broken into another farmhouse, and they're just checking it for supplies, for food, anything, and all they get there is they just smell death and more gloom. Get the hell out of there. Let's get to the prison. There's just a lot of movement, and that really speeds up the tempo.
It was also like, from a plot-wise standpoint, it shows that the gang were like a well-oiled machine at this level, where they knew exactly what needed to be done. They didn't need to communicate anymore. Whereas the second season, they were kind of like figuring out who they were, I guess, as a gang. So a lot of talking needed to happen, I guess.
Well, and there was just to continue bashing on season 2. That was another flaw that I think that they were having. They spent so much time trying to develop these characters, but these characterizations weren't consistent at all. Like, for example, it seemed like they really didn't know what to do with Shane. Like, is Shane a friend? Is Shane a foe? Part of it was trying to keep us in suspense that we didn't know what he was doing, but it really seemed like they were that the producers themselves were undecided on what to do with his character. The same with Daryl. Daryl went from being hot-headed, dangerous jerk to being a very sympathetic, nice guy when he was talking with Carol, then going right back to being a hot-headed, unsympathetic jerk. I mean, it was kind of like, I wouldn't even call it cyclical. It just felt like it was abandoned, that any kind of development that they had just kind of went out the window.
So what's your thoughts on this? So your thoughts that season 3 is better than the first 2 seasons then? So far?
It's really hard to match that momentum that they had going with the first season. I mean, that was really, things were just moving at breakneck speed. And with that's kind of with the excitement of the premise. Now that we're so familiar with the scenario and with the characters, they've really had to up their game with new characters and new story developments. And I think that they've just done a remarkable job in adapting Kirkland's comic book into an entertaining.
So you're familiar with the comic book then? So you're knowing these storylines that are going to occur, like the governor and the, I don't even know her name because she doesn't say any lines, the black lady who's in the wilderness, like
Joan.
Yeah. So then basically they're the one, they're like, they're following the comic book. I know there was a big deal with Frank Darabont, the original showrunner, who left the show because he was tailing off from the comic book and he was hitting the themes more thematically, where I guess the new showrunners are more like towards the comic book, I guess.
Well, before I answer that, I need to point out that there is some ambiguity there with whether or not Frank Darabont quit or was he asked to leave.
Sure.
That still has not been certified. It's your typical big studio.
A mutual parting of the ways, like how every relationship ends, right? Yeah.
I don't think that he left on his own free will. I think that they asked him to leave because they were worried about his budget spending and executive meddling. I think is what happened there. That they basically knew that they had to get rid of him if they were going to keep going at the speed that they wanted the production to be working at.
And he was probably under contract, so they had to like make him forced to resign. And they can give him a buyout. So basically, it's 50-50 whether he got fired or he quit, because technically he did quit, but then he was kind of forced out at the same time, right?
Right, exactly. But so back to your question about whether Frank Darabont detailed or derailed from the comic storyline too much. To tell you the truth, I don't know. I haven't read any of the comic books because I started to, and then I stumbled upon something that completely blew. It was a total spoiler for the show, and I said it's not worth it. I'll read all the comic books after the show is completely done.
Like a character died that you didn't want to see die or something like that?
Yeah, well, it wasn't even so much that he died. It was just that it was just explained like what had happened to him, and then like a couple weeks later, I saw the very thing happen on the show, and I said, that's not worth it.
Okay, so the season 3, because for me generally, I was more of a fan of season 2. Season 3, it's like this whole governor thing. I don't know. Usually, you're the one who generally rails against performances, but I guess it's all subjective. But I'm just not convinced that this guy playing the governor, I don't even know what his motivation is. And maybe that's writing. I don't know. Maybe that's the writing, or I don't even know. You're talking about like certain characters being different every scene. Like this guy is kind of like all over the place.
Well, I think that David Morrissey, who plays the governor, I think that he's done a very wise take on it, and that is that the governor really can't be a raving lunatic.
Sure. Because
we need to be able to believe that Andrea would have affiliated with him, and Andrea is a pretty smart survivor herself. So we need to be able to believe his charisma. The tricky thing is that can we also at the same time believe his dementia? Believe that this is a guy who is such a control freak that he's actually going to chain up his own daughter and lock her in a cupboard and comb her hair. Which
his zombie daughter, though. Let's just remember that. Like she's a zombie.
Yeah.
So what's the guy to do?
I thought that was a highlight of season 3. I definitely dug that scene. I didn't see that coming. But yeah, I agree with you that he doesn't seem like the kind of mad scientist that I'm sure that Kirkland probably intended.
Yeah,
I think that keeps it more of a guessing game.
But at the same time, it's like the last episode on episode 8 is this showdown between, what's the black girl's name again? What's her? And him, and basically these are the two new characters of the season, and they were giving it the new life force. But I didn't know any of these characters, so this huge showdown between the two of them, I in my opinion, and I've gone out of my way not to read anything about The Walking Dead because it's obviously one of those shows that gets blogged more probably than any other show in TV history maybe, but it seemed like she just grunts and basically just like gets all scowl-eyed, and then while for the first 8 episode where I didn't know anything about it, and it's not even just about dialogue, it's just about she doesn't do anything except for scowl, and for him it just seemed what's his master plan, or what's he all about? Like is he a genius, or is he just an average guy? Like I don't know, right? So but that's just me.
Yeah. I think that they do. They're really trying to work a lot of ninja worship with Michonne, with her costume and the fact that she carries a katana Japanese sword.
Yeah.
It's very, very. She's the noble silent warrior who doesn't like waste time talking, unlike the governor who seems to only who only seems to talk. The question about Michonne talking about things that have stumped me, the thing that I cannot figure out is what is Merle's intention when the governor sent Merle out to go to recapture Michonne.
Yeah.
And then he ended up just slaying his own people. That told me right away that, okay, so what Merle's going to do is he knows that the governor's not going to let him go to go look for his brother, so he's going to fake this search party. He was probably not expecting to even find her, and then go look for his brother. But when that plan changed, then his alternative was to kill everybody in the search party and then get back to his brother. But what really confused me is that now he brings back Maggie and Glenn.
Yeah.
And beats the ever-living hell out of Glenn. I don't know what he's up to now.
Yeah, that's what I meant, though. But maybe, like I said, this is the halfway point into the season. So I hope it gets paid off, like these little stumbles that I see. And, like, even the whole twist, like, the two brothers in the end, it was just like, is that really how you're going to end the halfway point? I thought I was looking for, like, a better kind of, like, hook, I guess, to, like, keep us going for the next year, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's just, like I said, go ahead.
It was an excellent cliffhanger to have the two, Merle and Daryl, go at it. But I think they could have done better, because I, for one, don't believe that those two brothers are going to do anything to hurt each other. More likely what they'll do is they'll join forces and take on the whole town.
Yeah, exactly.
Before either one of them will try to hurt the other. But still an exciting concept, but I don't buy it.
But I gotta admit, there's some, I don't know, I felt that the first episode of this season, 3 was excellent, like how you described. There's a couple good other gems, and like, I did enjoy the fight sequence between between the governor and the girl. I thought that was well executed. I just thought that it could have been so much more better. But I guess my biggest harm of season 3 is that I want Rick, man. Like, this guy's the main character of the show. I enjoy him. He just seems not to get enough screen time this so far as season 3.
Yeah, they've kind of. It seems that they're kind of doing a. They're kind of giving him some Dexter time, where they're now his own sanity is kind of questionable, because now he's hearing voices. And as we saw in that final episode, the latest episode, now he's also starting to hallucinate.
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught that, but
what's his name came back.
Shane came back. Yeah. I thought he saw Shane. Now I don't know if that was like meant to be like a serious question in his own sanity, but he seems to be slipping. And I think that there's a lot of great plot potential there, kind of in a helter-skelter kind of way, which is, what do you do when the leader of your group goes insane?
You become insane as well. That's sort of what's going on with the governor and the gang, I guess, too, right? So,
Probably. So is this where it's leading up to? Is this going to be the war between the two insane leaders?
But at the same time, because you watch season 1 and 2, you're rooting for Rick's gang to win, right? So.
Right.
So then therefore, but you're right. Like, what are they going to do with like? I don't know. It's interesting that, and like, I didn't see that. Maybe you saw it because you knew something before. I didn't see the wife dying at all. That was like kind of a shocker to me. When his wife died, I didn't see that coming at all.
I was surprised by it, but I wasn't as surprised as say seeing Sophia walking out of the barn in season 2, and it turned out that the little girl they were looking for was in the barn all along.
Yeah.
That surprised me. Glenn double crossing the governor's people. That surprised. I'm sorry, Merle double crossing his own party. That surprised me. But Lori dying, I don't know. I could kind of just tell that she was. Coming. That her character was coming to the end.
They didn't know what to do with her anymore, I guess, right?
Yeah. Well, it was just that it got to be that I think it was for the sake of what is really going to put Rick over the edge now. We can either do something to Carl or something to the wife. I don't think that they could have done both because that would have just been too much.
Yeah.
But it's all for the sake of motivation. And I think that I'm with you. I definitely would like to see more of Rick. Like to see more of see how he can handle this, how he can make a solution out of the chaos that's happening between these two communities.
Yeah, and it is like I said, it's like it is engaging, and like I just feel that sometimes The Walking Dead is like the best thing on television now, but then sometimes it just gets a little wonky and a little like less intelligent that it could be. I guess that's just my opinion, though.
Well, I read something about the second season, which spoke to me in a way, and I wanted to talk to you about this, and that was that when in season 2, when there was the great dilemma or the great debate between is it okay to just let these zombies live in captivity like they were doing in Herschel's farm?
Yeah.
That this reviewer had imagined that way that kind of makes Herschel a pro-life.
Okay. Yeah. Well, he's from the South, right? So he's a Southern guy, right? So usually they are
right. Yeah. So does that make Shane and everybody else who wants to slaughter zombies, is that pro-choice?
Well, no, but it's about what is dead. I think it's more of a euthanasia argument, right? Like, so someone's on the machine, and basically you either have the right to turn off the machine or not, right? Right. Even though like Terry Schiavalo, I don't know if I pronounced her name right, but this, even though that she is unable to orally command to discontinue her feeding tube, are these zombies kind of in that same predicament? Do these zombies want death in such a way, and are Rick and his guys providing a service by giving them? I felt that, like, it's funny you mentioned that, because I felt that they keep milking this kind of theme, and they brought up in season 3 with the governor and his assistant or his scientist or whatever, and they had that whole episode about the same thing, right? Like, are they dead or not? Or are they not dead, right? So it seems to be a recurring situation that they keep bringing up, right?
Right. The ethical consequences of zombie termination.
But it's sort of like, it's almost like what to do with the aliens when they come to our planet, kind of a thing, question, right? Like, I don't know, because it's not reality. So you know what I'm saying? Like, he can use a parallel, or you can use a parallel to like euthanasia or abortion, whatever, right? But it's just like it's hard to like talk about something that's sci-fi or fantasy, right? No? What's the parallel?
I'll tell you, the more I read the newspapers, the more I think that zombie apocalypse may already be upon us.
Okay, like, what do you, Mitch McConnell in the Senate? Is that what you're talking about, or what?
I'm talking about bath salts.
Bath salts?
Have you heard of this drug or this new fad that's been that's going on? It's basically it's a drug that's so powerful. It's a very powerful narcotic. It basically works kind of like angel dust.
Okay.
And it's kind of like crystal meth, like the crystal meth form of angel dust.
Yeah.
And it basically turns people into cannibals. I mean, they're just you just turn into slobbering zombies.
But are they taking it on their own? Like, they're taking the pill themselves, or like they're being forced the pill, or is it a pill?
No, they're taking it. It's like they're taking it for recreational use, and kind of like what used to be considered a heavy bender. They just wake up with a bloody mouth and probably nude somewhere if they haven't been shot to death by the local citizenry.
Here's my thing with season 3, though, right? And this is like fun. This is like ties into what you're talking about. I felt that Darabont was on to something about, like, he was really presenting strong themes into the show about de-evolving, about evolving society. When do we become zombies ourselves? Like, in terms of like the commercialization. Like, when do we stop evolving, right? Whereas this season just about like, there's one side, there's another side, there's some brothers involved, there's a little bit of romance, and there we go, right? And it's like, there doesn't seem to be an extra kind of element hanging over the season, like you're describing about, like, are these people dead or they're not dead? Or maybe I'm just seeing a different season than last season then.
No, I think like the first season was about escapism, about trying to get out of the area that's dangerous. The second season was about salvation, about, okay, so we've found an idyllic location for us to exist. How can we make this last?
Yeah.
And they couldn't last. It just can't. And now the third season, I think, is more about, okay, so we're always going to have to be on the move. We're going to have to, society has changed way too much to even consider that things are going to be at all like that they were.
Yeah.
So how can we exist with our fellow people? That whereas I think seasons 1 and 2 were very much about man versus zombie, I think season 3 is more about man versus man.
Or I think it's about like the funny thing that, because the first episode is about them going to prison and feeling safe, right? So then whatever theme you can take from that, so they want to be enclosed into society, whereas like before the zombies, you go to prison and then you're like, you're trapped. This time it's like you're safe, right? But also too, it's like almost like a country now, or a community. So you're talking about the second season, where it's about it's like almost like they're alone on the island on the farm, and each person has a job to do, kind of a thing, right? And in the third season, they're more with the rest of the world, right? So the island is closed off of the rest of the world, but it's all about them only caring about their own, right? So it's forget about humanity, just like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you're from the United States, so a U.S. life is more important than someone from Afghanistan's life, kind of an analogy, right? Because they're one of you. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
They're bringing up that theme in the episodes where the two prison guards, where it's like, no, you guys are prisoners. You're not part of our gang. So your wife is not as worthy as ours, kind of a thing. And that's what the governor's doing,
exactly.
Right? So, right?
Exactly. It's kind of like it seems to be kind of making a comment about how even though you guys all have the same plan or the same motivation to live without zombies, basically.
Yeah.
That they're still very separated by their own the boundaries of their own societies.
And that's what I
think that.
Yeah, go ahead.
That if all this had really happened, everybody as a human would be bonded against everybody who's not a human.
Yeah.
It's like every other zombie story that I've seen. It's very much about, it's very individualized.
Yeah.
I guess, for lack of a better word.
Like you're following one or two people's journey, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It was just like you said. It was just like that people aren't so much concerned about themselves, they're concerned about their own people.
Yeah. which happens in this world too, right? Like we can't get along because one person has a different ideology, or one person has a different religion than the other person, or you should be a capitalist, you shouldn't be a socialist, that kind of thing, right? Which is all nonsense. If we all just got along, then we can stop the zombies, right?
Right, exactly.
So it's like it's like fighting amongst themselves, right? So.
And it does. I think it very correctly suggests that you people are hindering your own solutions by fighting amongst each other.
Which is what we do in our society, I guess, right? So.
Completely. It's why we can't get anything done.
But then you got to. That's where I was hoping they were going to take the governor, and they might take the governor this way, where he's like Hitler, like where he wants to take over the world, like he wants world domination, and this is his chance to do it, kind of a thing. Because you're always going to have people like that, right? There's going to be people like that always in human history.
Yeah, and he knows how to work. He knows how to work the political machine of it all, because he's the governor. I mean, he's been through all this before.
Yeah, and he's got leadership abilities, and he's got intelligence, and that's when people become dangerous, right?
Yeah, he's got some zombie girl locked up on a chain in his room. That's beside the point.
Yeah, well, we're all a little bit crazy, right? So.
Yeah, sure. What's wrong with some aquarium heads in your den?
No, I just feel that like it's kind of I do enjoy watching it. I'm talking to you about it right now. It's just that I don't know. I don't know why people you seem to rail against season 2, but I seem to kind of enjoy it. Where it's like I didn't really care about the zombie killing, but at the same time I know for ratings wise you need to have a lot of blood and gore because that's what people want, I guess, right?
Yeah. I for the record, I didn't have a problem with season 2 because it was slower, or because it wasn't as much zombie death as was in season 1. It bothered me that they spent so much time trying to develop these characters, and I don't think that they were significantly developed. I don't think that there was really any development among any of these people, except for Glenn, who discovered his worth and value to the group, and that was done through his relationship with Maggie. But for the most part, I think everything was just a lot of folding laundry, a lot of just. One thing that always bugged me was how Lori just never seems to have an eye on her own kid. Like, where's Carl? Oh, he's out walking around. And I just kept thinking, if the zombie apocalypse happens, I'm not letting my children just walk around the farm. I don't care what kind of security we have.
But the thing with like this show's obviously a huge success and their big ratings bonanza. And like a guy like Carl, they're not going to kill him off because they can keep the show going for 20 years. Carl will be the new Rick, and they'll just keep milking out new Walking Deads till the cows come home. Yeah,
and even if they do continue, I know that they plan on continuing their tradition of killing off major characters.
Yeah.
As long as you keep new ones in, keep them around for a while, and then kill them off again, then you can just keep the surprise factor very much.
But if you're going to kill off major characters, you're going to kill, that's fine and dandy, but at least like T-Dog or whatever his name was, who had like 4 lines in the whole season, when he dies, it's like, oh, hey, he died, oh, okay. He didn't really say anything, didn't really do anything, so okay, he's dead, right?
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for him to go. Just means be quiet.
But yeah, it's just like it seems like also too like where you're talking about the season 1. By the way, is that black guy coming back from I can't remember the guy from the pilot? Does he think he's coming back ever? Him and his son?
I think so. I would say probably not. But I remember that somewhere in season 2, I think that I could be wrong. It could be at the end of season 1. But there was a time when Rick makes a random walkie-talkie call.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name either. I want to say I can't remember it. I can't remember.
Who, the guy from the pilot?
Yeah, it was him and his son.
Yeah.
And the one who initially discloses to Rick what's going on, that dude, while you're out in Coma Land, the zombie apocalypse happened.
No, and like this, he was a great character, right? So like, I just, I kind of hope he comes back.
Yeah. And the great thing about The Walking Dead's format is that there's always the possibility that he could be dead and come back anyway.
Yeah, his name is Lenny James, but it's the actor Morgan. He was Morgan Jones on
Morgan, that's what it was. I remember it was something. I remember that because I like the way that they filmed that, because the way that he voiced Morgan, you weren't even sure if is this a man or a woman. And then you had to check back. You're like, oh wait a minute, Morgan was named the guy with the kid. What I'm most interested to see with the end of season 3 is whether or not they're actually going to continue traveling, because it seems that it's finally occurred to all the characters that there is no salvation. The first season they were just trying to get to the CDC. The second season they were trying to get to I forget this.
Yeah, but I don't even understand that, because it's a big world out there. Just go journey north. That's simple as that. You know what I mean? Journey west, journey northwest. There's all kinds of land out there for them to discover. There's got to be salvation out there, right?
Yeah.
That's what I would be doing if I was in those guys' positions.
I would definitely find a motorcycle somewhere and try to ride as far, probably as far into Canada as I could go.
Because what happens in the snow? Do the zombies get affected by the weather, or do they die during the bad weather? So if they do, then basically you journey up to Canada, into my neck of the woods, and they should all be dead by the weather.
Well, that, and also they'll get slowed down by the snow. There's no way. I mean, a zombie has trouble running after you regardless, but if you put snow on the ground, then the zombie is probably going to have even more trouble. So all you would need to do is get yourself a good pair of snow boots. Which I'm sure you'll probably find all over the place in Canada once the zombie apocalypse happens.
Of course, yeah. Just go to any store. They have all kinds of them, right?
Yeah, completely.
All right, before we leave you, what's your prediction for the end of season 3? What's going to happen?
I don't think that there will be any kind of a fight between Merle and Daryl. If so, they'll fake it and probably work together against everything. I think that the most interesting character to watch is going to continue to be Andrea.
Okay.
Because Andrea she's really grown as a warrior, and as we've seen from the first part of season 3, she's not entirely ready to walk away from this kind of from Woodbury.
Okay.
She herself is kind of attracted to the lifestyle and the game that the governor has created over there. So it could be even if the governor is taken down by the incoming war between Rick and his people against Woodbury, there's still there could be a chance that Andrea may remember that she was in fact abandoned by these people at the end of season 2.
Yeah.
And she could become the major nemesis.
She could become the new governor, I guess.
Right. Exactly. The governess.
The governess. Is it just the governor? A governor is a governor, right? There's no just like the president. The president is female, male. It's just the president, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm making that word up anyway.
But you want to. It doesn't matter. That would be cool to see. But also too, it's I don't know if she's kind of that engaging. I guess the cool way would be for Merle and the brother to go off on their own. Who knows what's going to happen? But I have a feeling that what's going to happen is that Rick's going to the Rick's gang's going to beat the governor, and then basically everything's going to be fine in the end. And then season 4 they'll find a new nemesis, kind of a thing.
Yeah, a new place to go. I like your I like that speculation of why don't they just go to Canada? Why don't they go north?
It doesn't make any sense. That's what you do. You venture north. That's what in the beginning of evolution, right? If you that's where everybody did. Everybody's too damn hot here, too many people, so everybody got out of Africa and they went to venture north. Right?
That's what all of our American fugitives do. They either go to Canada or Mexico.
But you know what I mean, right? Or draft dodgers or whatever, right? There's all kinds of Vietnam draft dodgers in Canada, living in Canada, right?
Oh, sure. I'm sure your town is probably littered with them, probably all over the place.
Well, that's all I'm saying. At the beginning of evolution is that man was created in Africa. They all ventured north because it was just too damn busy going on and whatever, right? And then you basically, then you stop shop in the northern towns and you see what's going on. It's just almost like I Am Legend. You remember that movie, I Am Legend, or the book or whatever, where Will Smith is like, there's nobody around. It's the civilization. I'm the last person standing. I'm like, well, you're living in New York City. Why don't you go somewhere else? Maybe there's other people around. Like, you know what I mean? What are you hanging around there for?
Yeah, I wouldn't stay there.
You know what I mean? It's just like we're homebodies by nature, but come on, there's a line, isn't there?
New Yorkers. When you're a New Yorker, I guess you just never leave.
Yeah. On that note, Mr. Engberg, we'll talk at the end of season 3, and we'll see if any of our predictions came true, and see if this season actually has a point to it. Hopefully it does.
I look forward to that.
All right.